From the New Arts and Media Studios here in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. And it's officially summer. Happy summer solstice, everybody. Let's see, let's look at the timeline here. Sunrise this morning, 5:12 a.m. I'm talking Central Time now. My time here in River West, the greatest neighborhood in the world. So there are 3 times on the clock that are significant at every solstice. You want to look at the sunset the night before. So that was 8:34 p.m. last night was sunset officially. Official sunrise 5:12 a.m. this morning. And then the exact moment of solstice, which everyone shares. I love that. That's what I love about solstice. Everybody shares it around the globe. And that's 10:32 p.m. last night. 10:32 p.m. So I like to acknowledge those times. And then I'll add a couple of more times. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I didn't plug it beforehand. Maybe I'll remember to do that before the winter solstice. But there's a site. I imagine there's probably, I don't know, maybe there's more than one. The one I know about is called English Heritage. And they get a live stream going for both the sunset and the sunrise at Stonehenge. So that's kind of cool. I tuned in and watched those live streams. And sunset was at 9:26 p.m. local time. And right here, that would be 3:26 p.m., so it's a 6-hour difference. And then sunrise was last night at 10:52 p.m., which is 4:52 a.m. this morning, local time. So, convenient hours to watch the sunset and the sunrise. And very similar weather at Stonehenge and here in River West. The skies over River West were identical to the sky over Stonehenge. So I really enjoyed that. I do every solstice, summer and winter. I always take a moment. I commune with the universe. That's my thing. I enjoy it. I don't need any big rituals. One of these days, I'm going to overcome my introverted nature and actually go out and join some people maybe in some sort of ritual or circle dance or gathering or candle lighting or whatever they do at sunset and or sunrise of the solstice. One of these days, I'll do that. As I always say, if I was the person I'd like to be, that's the kind of thing I would do. Yeah, one of these days. It's a great opportunity to reflect on the great larger questions. Why are we here? What's it all about? What does it all mean? And just by coincidence, I came upon this headline, Oxford University Press. I forget who shared this. Maybe I follow a couple of philosophy sites. But this headline certainly caught my eye. What is the place of human beings in the world? Now, you can have silly party conversations. You can have deep philosophical or religious conversations about this question. Of course, it's a huge question. What's our place in the world? Really, if you think about it, it's the central question of philosophy. Why are we here? What is a good life in this time of climate crisis? And what ought to be a pretty good awareness by now of the issue of our role in the environment, what we do to hurt the environment, what we can do to live peacefully with it, and what we must do to, in some cases, save it from our own destruction. So it's a question worth asking. Well, the aforementioned article was no great shakes. It didn't really give us an answer. I'm not really recommending the article. I'm mainly just pointing out the title, the headline. It got me thinking because I couldn't come up with a reason. What is the place of human beings in the world? And again, if you want to get philosophical or religious about it, we're caretakers of the world. We need to live responsibly. In the tradition of conservation, we need to be kind to the earth, walk gently. I believe that. You can make a pretty good moral argument in that regard. You can make excellent moral arguments, philosophical, religious arguments for taking care of each other. And that's far too grand. I don't necessarily want to go there right now. What I focused on right away when I saw this headline, well, why are we here? What is our place? In just a practical sense. Because if you know anything at all about the natural environment, you don't have to be any kind of an expert. It's pretty clear that everything on this planet, every living thing, certainly plant or animal, seems to have some sort of a purpose. Scientists explain all the time. Natural scientists explain every species and its role in the ecosystem. The insects that burrow into the earth and give richness to the soil that allows for its life-giving quality. And vegetation grows. And animals feed. And certain predators keep other populations down, allowing other vegetation to thrive. It's just, there's this great, grand, very complex ecosystem, and it seems every living thing, from the smallest cellular level onto the greatest, largest land mammals, or sea mammals, everybody has a part to play. Well, what is our part in the ecosystem? Humans, for the life of me, I can't think of a role that we play in the ecosystem. If anything, we just get in the way. At best, we are innocent bystanders, and at worst, we're every ecosystem's nightmare. How the hell did we get into this position? We're animals, we're mammals on this planet, after all. How in the world did we evolve into a species that really just has no place here? It's really more than just a pithy little aphorism that the world will do fine without us. I mean, people say that all the time. I just read that in a comment today. On kind of a whim, I shared Greta Thunberg's quote from a couple of years ago when she was speaking to a worldwide body. It might have been the UN. I forgot which speech this was. Her quote, "People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We're in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?" Quoted Greta Thunberg. Well, somebody commented on that. Here, I'll go ahead and read that comment. "I'm not worrying about the earth. She will take care of herself. It's people who should be worrying about themselves or future generations. We see the earth reclaim abandoned places all the time. Wild creatures reclaim their homes. We saw that in the beginning of the pandemic when they roamed city streets. When people do themselves in, the earth will recover and start anew. But I doubt many people will be around to see it." So that was a comment. I won't name the person because this is a friend of a friend of a friend. I don't know this person, so I'll allow them to remain anonymous. That's a sentiment I used to share. I've said very similar words in the past. But I've changed my mind over the last couple of years. Because, as Greta Thunberg points out, we're literally destroying ecosystems. Yes, if we do ourselves in, the earth will live on, and it will reclaim much of its damaged spaces. But yeah, I've changed my mind over the years. I've come more firmly to believe that non-human animals and trees, and really all non-human life on the planet, has rights. The concept of animal rights is well established. The natural philosopher Peter Singer, the most prominent among writers on this topic. There's a growing sentiment around the world for trees, especially, for forests, to have rights recognized. And you really can extend this, as I say, to all living things on the planet. Not to say we can't eat broccoli, no. But there is this concept that nature has rights. And however we need to meet our needs, certainly to be expected, all living things draw from the rest of nature to meet their needs, of course. but the manner in which we do it and the choices we make and the needs we establish. There's another philosophical question you can have a lot of fun with, differentiating between needs and wants. That's a really fun one. Get that started at a party. Anyway, I've come more firmly to believe that nature does have rights. Non-human animals and plants have rights. And we are in violation. We humans are in violation of natural rights when we abuse the planet. So yes, if and when we are all dead and gone, the planet will go on. But I don't think that excuses us of our natural crimes. I really don't. So, I don't know. You tell me. Why are we here? It's just amazing that we evolved to a position where we are completely unnecessary to the planet. It's as though we just arrived like aliens and we're just taking a ride. Everything else belongs, but we don't. Now, as I alluded to earlier, there are all sorts of philosophical reasons about how we should treat the earth, and I think the fact that we kind of don't belong and we are just passengers makes us all the more responsible for taking care. You know, when you go out into wild areas, you leave the place untouched. You take out whatever you bring in. You know, every camper knows that rule. Every hiker knows that rule. So we do no harm. The fact that we kind of don't belong, I think, makes that argument even stronger. Now, there's our relationship with each other. And the fact that we don't belong, at least what I'm positing here, we don't belong really in the natural world in this odd way. That certainly doesn't undermine our responsibility to each other. All the things we talk about, the philosophical, moral imperatives, the entire realm of politics and how we get along with each other, how we live with each other, those things remain as important as ever. Certainly the entire realm of the arts and culture, music, literature, poetry, that's not diminished in any way. So all of the great philosophical, moral, spiritual, religious conversations we can have about why are we here and how to live a good life, all of that is as relevant and important as ever. And our reverence for nature, our love of nature, even though I'm questioning our place in nature, I still think it's perfectly appropriate to hold it in reverence, to honor nature, to protect it. Again, if we're passengers, even more appropriate that we take good care, that we honor, that we revere. And so my love, and maybe you share this, my love of the solstice every time it comes around, in the summer and the winter, I hold it in great reverence. I'm in awe of the whole process of the earth and its rotation and its relationship with the sun and the stars. It's beautiful. And part of that awe is feeling the connection. And I've talked with you for several years now. Every time the solstice comes around, I kind of share my spiritual feelings, my feelings of connection with all of nature. But this year, I'm kind of questioning that. Because it's all well and good to hold nature and the cosmos in reverence. But this year I'm really questioning, just because this one dumb little headline, what my role actually is. I don't seem to have one. I have responsibility to my other humans. I take that seriously. I feel I have moral and political responsibilities. I still feel a great responsibility to care for the earth, to care for nature, like the hiker cares for the trail. But I just cannot point my finger to a reason for us being here. Please tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me how we contribute to any ecosystem we inhabit or find ourselves adjacent. We have no natural role. This is a revelation for me this year. I feeling extreme existential angst on this summer solstice. Well, let's not spend this entire episode on my existential angst. But let's grab a couple of headlines here. A couple of things on my stack I'd like to take care of. Of course, we just passed Juneteenth, the very first federally recognized federal holiday of Juneteenth, which is great. A couple of follow-up thoughts on that. Number one, I saw a couple of headlines that we don't quite have the story right. There are a couple of different readings of history here, and this one matches what I've heard. It's not that the people who were enslaved in Galveston, Texas, didn't know that they were free. According to this interpretation, they knew damn well they were free. And the people who were holding them as slaves knew damn well they just weren't acting on it. So everybody knew. Robin Washington writes in forward.com, "The big lie is the incessantly repeated canard that Galveston's poor ignorant black folks didn't know they were free, and that U.S. Major General Gordon Granger had to read a proclamation to spell it out for them. In fact, they most certainly did know. We knowed what was going on all that time," Felix Hayward quoted, an enslaved in Texas, recorded saying this in an account by historian Gregory P. Downs. Hayward was in no way an anomaly, but representative of the majority of the enslaved populace, Downs asserts. If Galveston's blacks already knew they were free, obviously so too did their slaveholders, who nonetheless kept them in bondage, not by cunning or deceit or ignorance, but by the brute force and tactics of dehumanizing torture they had been using for 200 years. General Granger didn't bring liberation by words on a scroll, but by troops with fixed bayonets. So that's an interpretation that I've seen a couple of times. I think it's worth noting. Also, a quick mention of the response. This all happened rather quickly. If you weren't paying attention, and I got to be honest, I mean, I have to admit, I really wasn't paying attention. By the time the Senate had their unanimous consent vote, I didn't even know this was in play. And then the next day the House does it, and then the president signs it. Boom, it's done. And it's not even for next year. It's for this year. Okay, like tomorrow. You're going to get Friday off. It is crazy how fast it happened. And so the response was fast as well. And it was just firing at us from all directions. And when I talked about this late last week, I forget what day I talked about it, I didn't share a lot of personal opinion about it because I typically like to wait a day or two. I like to let things soak in a little bit. I don't feel a great responsibility in spouting off the minute I hear about something. So I don't, in the moment now, recall what I talked to you about last week, but, I offered some thoughts. But I generally held back, and I'm glad I did, because I saw some commentary that I hadn't thought about. Alicia Saunier wrote this tweet, "Not sure how to process non-black middle and upper class people getting Juneteenth off, while black, poor, and working class people don't. This really has been sitting on my heart." Yeah. Who's going to get the time off? Or who's going to get the time and a half pay? And who's going to have to continue to work? Yeah, it's going to be disproportionately white folks, white-collar folks, who get the day off, or maybe get time and a half. And it's going to be disproportionately black folks and people of color who have to work like it's any other day of the week. So, yeah, that's a thought. You and I did talk about the things that haven't happened yet, things like reparations, things like institutional racism being dealt with in any serious way, from housing and healthcare to employment, education, and especially voting rights. All of these issues being either completely ignored or bogged down in this legislative slog, being blocked by Republicans, not fought for hard enough by Democrats. So we talked a little bit about that, but I wanted to definitely hold back on any idea that the federal holiday itself was somehow kind of a joke. In fact, here, I'll let you in on this. I wrote what I thought was kind of a little commentary or a joke, and then I thought twice about posting it. And the little quip was, this is the first draft because I never published it, was, I know, let's make Earth Day a federal holiday. Climate crisis solved. How about an official healthcare day? Or a national holiday that honors American workers? Oh, wait. Yeah, we got that. So the idea being, oh, well, all we have to do, we never actually have to solve any of these problems, just make federal holidays. And then everybody will feel better. You know, wah, 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 my little clever commentary. Well, I thought about it for a second. And I thought, well, two things. First, it's not well crafted enough. It could be more pithy. It could be funnier. It could be more biting. It's just not well written. It's not well constructed. So I thought, well, this isn't ready for publication. But secondly, and more importantly, not my place, and too early in the process. Because I did, over the couple of days following the official proclamation, I heard black commentators make similar points, but better than me. And the fact that I'm an old white guy made me stop and think. You know, this so-called cancel culture, this is the positive side. It made me think twice about posting, you know, my little joke. Because I know that my intention was good, but my poorly constructed little meme and my flip delivery could very easily be misinterpreted as mocking or diminishing the importance of Juneteenth, which I really don't want to do. Yes, I think a predominantly white Congress who pats themselves on the back for passing Juneteenth as a federal holiday, I think that predominantly white Congress should be mocked for doing that and doing literally nothing else. But again, way too easy to misinterpret my poorly written meme. Because to a lot of black folks, this federal proclamation is damned important. And it's something that activists worked on for years, for decades. So for me, an old white guy who's going to stand up and white-splain how this is a big joke? Well, what a stupid thing that would be for me to do. So yeah, cancel culture, in this case, is a damn good thing. It made me think twice. It made me check myself. It stopped me. If my joke is easily misinterpreted, well, that's on me. That's not on the listener. That's my responsibility for not being clear. Now, some might call that cancel culture. I say it's damned responsible. I mean, there's no shortage of jokes or memes. To eliminate the really poorly constructed ones, it's no great loss to the culture. Yeah, toss them, cancel them. That's a good thing. But if you got something you think is really good, then just be ready to defend it. Be prepared to educate, to inform. Defend your point. None of this is a bad thing. This is all good. This is all positive. You cancel culture warriors, you're way off base. I want to cancel you. God, Bill Maher is still on it. I saw his show on Friday again. I got to stop doing that. Bill Maher is like a bug on my windshield. I just can't look away. Because he still has good writers. His monologue is often funny. His New Rules segment is often pretty funny. He does another little desk bit in his show that's usually pretty funny. But when he's just kind of spouting his own opinions, man, he is just absolutely devoted. He is married to this anti-cancel culture thing. The enemy of the woke. He keeps using woke. Ugh, guys, stop using that word, especially if you're an old white guy. Would you please stop using the word woke? Oh my God, you don't know how ridiculous you sound. He went off on Lin-Manuel Miranda. First of all, I mispronounced his name several times. You may have heard the story. Lin-Manuel Miranda got criticized after the release of the movie version of In the Heights because of colorism. It's an entirely Latinx cast, but they're almost entirely light-skinned, and there are no Afro-Latin cast members in the movie. And he took some pretty bad criticism about that. People pointing out, people who grew up in the Heights, saying, it's a real mixed crowd here. And what the movie version of In the Heights puts on screen is kind of a Friends version of Latinx in the neighborhood. So he took some criticism about that. And in the reading I've done, here again, white guy. I did not comment on this. I sat back and I listened. White folks, take some advice from your old pal, Charles Purcell. It's okay to listen once in a while. It really honestly is. And I heard some really great commentary from various Latinx voices. I heard some really good commentary about colorism within that community. Then I guess I'd heard of the problem. I really didn't have any nuanced understanding of it. And I gained much more understanding of the problem through various commentary. As opposed to Bill Maher, who just has to just spout and scold Lin-Manuel Miranda's critics over this issue and how they had no right to criticize him. And he, as this older white guy, just had to mansplain and white-splain everything. Bill Maher he's becoming more of an idiot every week. By the way, he's going to be in Milwaukee on August 14th. Do I know anybody who works at the Pabst Theater? Anybody who's going to be if you have to give him a ride from the airport, or if you're just kind of, taking care of him, making sure he gets to the catering table or whatever, you're showing him to his dressing room. If you could somehow get him to listen to this show, I sure would appreciate it. We're on locally here in Milwaukee. Let's see, 1 p.m., 7 p.m., and 1 a.m. So if you happen to be with Bill on August 14th, kind of taking care of him, tune into River West Radio, would you? Or kind of, put this podcast in his ear somehow. Because I'm just dying to have a fight with Bill Maher. I really want him to hear. And so I'll make a point, okay, on the August 14th show, I'll make a point of really just ripping into Bill Maher, okay? I'll make a note on my calendar. And if you have any way of getting to him, make sure he hears it, because I want to start a good old-fashioned radio feud with Bill Maher. All right. Well, there's lots more to talk about. So much happens when we're apart. I got a whole big stack here. We'll get to as much as we can throughout the week, but this is our Monday show. And don't be a mansplainer. Don't be a white splainer, please, for the love of God. If you think you're really sure how you feel about cancel culture, give it a second thought, and never, ever, ever again use the word woke. Especially my older white pals. You don't know how dumb you sound. I'm an older white guy, and I gotta police my people. All right. So happy solstice, happy summer. Here we go. That'll do it for today. I love you. I'm Charles Purcell.